Good afternoon, friends, and thank you very much for being here today. And let me begin with an apology for having kept you waiting. Sometimes there are situations which are beyond our control, and this was one of those days. So I would beg your indulgence on that delay. With that, let me introduce to you Mr. Vikram Doraiswamy, who joined Secretary Americas, and who will talk to you about what you, I suppose, have come here for. But before that, let me just give you a brief outline of the announcement that I have to make, and then Vikram will fill you in up with other details. And this announcement relates to the visit of Secretary of State John Kerry. The External Affairs Minister, Sri Salman Khurshid, will host the Secretary of State, the U.S. Secretary of State, Mr. John Kerry, on his visit to New Delhi from June 23rd to 25th. This is Secretary Kerry's first visit to India as Secretary of State, and his first meeting with the External Affairs Minister since both of them assumed their respective offices. Secretary Kerry is scheduled to arrive here on the 23rd in the afternoon. We will be providing you a detailed advisory regarding media opportunities on 23rd, 24th, and 25th. The program is still being finalized, and as soon as this is finalized, this will be put on the web. Secretary Kerry is visiting India primarily for the 4th India-US strategic dialogue, which will be held on the 24th. During the strategic dialogue, the External Affairs Minister and Secretary Kerry will review progress in bilateral relations and ties over the past year and exchange views on regional and international issues. On the bilateral side, the focus will be on the expansion of cooperation in the areas of defense and security, trade and investment, science and technology, clean energy and environment. It is expected that following the discussion, several new initiatives to strengthen bilateral cooperation in these areas in particular will be identified. In addition to the strategic dialogue, Secretary Kerry is also expected to co-chair with the Minister for Human Resources Development the India-US Higher Education Dialogue. This will be on 25th June prior to his departure. And these are the broad outlines of Secretary Kerry's engagements. In addition, he will also have some other media events which will be put out after consultation with the U.S. Embassy. What I will now do is request Vikram Doraiswamy, Joint Secretary Americas, to make a few brief opening remarks on the issues that are to be considered, following which you are free to ask questions on those. After that, I am also available for any questions that you have on anything else. So, Vikram, over to you now.
Thank you very much. And please, can I add my own apology for keeping you all waiting? I was called away for a frenetic last-minute briefing for my bosses. We all report to different people. And so I did get delayed much beyond what was conscionable, so my apologies for that. The Secretary of State, this is his first visit to India in his current capacity. As friends in the media know, he has visited India before as a senator and as chair of the United States Senate Foreign Relations Committee. He is, of course, no stranger to India, but this is his first visit in his current capacity. It comes some 5 months after his appointment to his current post, so we're very happy to have him come so soon in his tenure. It is also External Affairs Minister Salman Khurshid's first interaction with the Secretary of State of the United States. Indeed, it is the first high political interaction in the second term of the Obama presidency. So it is part of the process of taking forward the India-US relationship, which currently is one of our more intense and more in-depth partnerships, as it covers interaction across most of the spheres of government work. We've had a very busy agenda with the United States for the last 6 months of this year, for this first 6 months of this year, and it has included high-level visits on both sides, plus dialogues covering most of the areas of our cooperation. taking that into account, the strategic dialogue is our premier mechanism in the dialogue architecture, which is both an opportunity to carry out some stock taking of the relationship, what has happened over the past 1 year since the last round of the dialogue, but also to try and set a new vision ahead for what we expect to do in the next, in the remaining 6 months of this year and the first half of next year before the next round of the strategic dialogue. So we will look at having a detailed conversation more or less around 4 broad thematic pillars. One would be the bilateral relationship, which would cover our bilateral economic and sort of security aspects of our relationship. It would cover energy, and it would cover, that covers under more or less one strategic pillar. The other would be the detailed political consultations that we have with the United States on regional and other issues. And the third major pillar would really be global issues, in which we consult each other on developments relating to multilateral and other fora, including in the evolution of a regional architecture in Asia. That is the broad format in which we would have these discussions. The Secretary of State will also be meeting Prime Minister on Monday, the 24th. So those are the two sort of bookended arrangements. The Secretary of State is expected to be traveling with a high-level delegation, which will also include the Secretary for Energy, the new Secretary for Energy, Dr. Ernest Moniz. Also, a high-level delegation. The rest of the delegation would include the Science and Technology Administrator, the NASA Director, the USAID Director. These are all heads of departments. So these are, in a sense, the terminology is a bit misleading otherwise. The Pacific Command Commander, Admiral Locklear, and senior officials from the Department of State, the Department of Homeland Security, and so on. I think that about covers opening remarks. I'm happy to take any questions.
Well, the floor is open for any questions that you may have on this issue. Yes, Padma. Just hold on.
Mr. Doraiswamy, I just wanted to know if you also have cyber security on the agenda, and also specifically the snooping, that came to light in recent times.
Cybersecurity is part of our dialogue architecture. It's part of the Homeland Security dialogue. Plus, we also have a detailed interaction between the National Security Council on our side with the American side. So this is certainly an opportunity for us to take up all issues on our agenda with them.
सर वो हायर स्टडीज वाली मीटिंग में क्या-क्या बातें होनी है?
Sorry,
हायर स्टडीज वाली मीटिंग में क्या-क्या बातें होनी है?
Higher education. Higher education dialogue will happen on Tuesday, the 25th. Our Minister for Human Resource Development also went to the United States in early May, as you all know. वैसे मैं माफ़ी चाहता हूँ कि मेरी हिंदी इतनी अच्छी नहीं है, तो अगर आप इजाज़त दें तो मैं अंग्रेज़ी में जवाब दूँ. But the way we look at it is, for us to realize our demographic dividend, the most important opportunity for us is to be able to invest in training our people. So there are two parts to that. One part is what the US calls community colleges and what we call technical education. We need to ensure that our technical education or community colleges actually produce people who are trained enough to get jobs in industry, and therefore make the training of community college trainees directly linked to the end user, which is industry. So, as I understand, the Ministry of Human Resource Development is rolling out a large number of community colleges in India, and 200 new community colleges are to come up in the next few months using existing facilities. So, the US will be a partner to a very large number of this. We hope to have specific cooperation items put down for technical education. At the same time, we're also looking at higher education as in premier colleges of India and cooperation with United States colleges. So that part, there were a number of regulatory issues that the US was looking at in terms of policy. We understand the UGC has taken those on board, and there is an effort now to try and find ways in which not just the US, but a variety of other advanced countries, higher education premier institutes can cooperate with our universities. The third part is online learning. Many countries have excellent capacity for what is called massive online open courses, MOOCs. We are very keen on the capacity to use the internet greatly to reach out to a number of young people who are otherwise left out of capacity to reach higher education. So all this will be taken up. The Secretary of State will jointly launch the higher education dialogue with our HRM on Tuesday morning. And then this will be carried on thereafter at the Secretary to Government level through the day, which will include Vice Chancellors from Indian universities, education specialists. So it's a full day's program. It's not just a small event.
Under this rubric of regional issues, is India going to raise the concerns about proposed talks of the United States with Taliban, which are being talked about, and because they deal with Afghanistan also? So are we going to raise those issues? And secondly, what are the important issues so far as the homeland security is concerned?
Sure. Afghanistan is, of course, part of our region, so definitely it's on our agenda, and we would be interested to listen to the US, since they are one of the lead players in this process, as to what is happening over the last few days and their current engagements there, to see what we can to sort of compare notes with them on what we understand of what is happening. So definitely it's on our agenda. And Homeland Security, as you ask, Homeland Security, we've just had the second round of the Homeland Security dialogue in the United States. It's a process that was set up after President Obama's visit in 2010. We've had only 2 rounds of it so far at the ministerial level. But this last round we had identified, under it we have 6 working groups. One deals with what is called the global supply chain, which essentially is, to make it simple, is all issues relating to trade and commerce, the movement of goods and people through ports, seaports and land ports and airports. And ensuring the security and integrity of the movement of goods and people from both sides. So there is airport security, port security, the best ways of doing things in a manner that is least invasive to people and to the movement of goods, but yet at the same time provides high-end security. A second working group deals with illicit finance and counterfeit currency, which is very important for us given the significant challenge we face with counterfeit currency. A third working group deals with let me see if I remember all this correctly. The third working group deals with technology, which essentially is our interest in securing technologies for homeland security, which are used by US law enforcement authorities. A fourth group deals with cybersecurity, which deals with the operational aspects of conversation on securing critical infrastructure and preventing hacking. We are very interested in this part for obvious reasons, but our interest in this predates many of these disclosures. So before any of you think that this is something new, this has been one of the original working groups from the start. So the conversation that we wish to have with the United States on cybersecurity covers operational parts of law enforcement in cybersecurity. There is the fifth working group deals with capacity building, in which we look at the opportunities for our police forces and our law enforcement authorities to obtain training opportunities with premier law enforcement authorities in the US. And the sixth and last working group is the working group that deals with what is called megacity policing. As our cities become more, as our population becomes more and more urban, the needs of high-end policing and better quality of policing services has been felt, and we look at many of the American cities, the larger American cities, which have used technology and policing skills in very high-end bringing together of technology, including fusion centers which transmit data both ways between local, community and state-level law enforcement authorities to federal law enforcement authorities. So there's a lot that we can share in terms of homeland security with the US.
Rajiv?
Vikram, just a one-liner. Are shale gas exports and DTI on the agenda, and the status of DTI, please?
The shale gas is a very important part of what we want to talk to the United States about. We are very interested in the opportunity for expanding our energy cooperation. We already have an India-US energy dialogue, which is co-chaired by Deputy Chairman Ahluwalia Saab and by the new Energy Secretary. So that next round is to take place in India, so we'll be offering dates for that. But over and above the discourse, which has verticals relating to new and renewable energy, hydrocarbons, coal, etc. And power. Our interest in the hydrocarbon piece is particularly strong now as the US is on its way to becoming a net exporter of energy, and both in the acquisition of energy resources in terms of getting permission to import gas from the United States based on the US law that currently requires prior clearance of all exports to non-FTA signatory countries with the US. So we have a number of our companies have already lined up purchase agreements with US companies, which require to be cleared by the US Department of Energy. So that process is on. We have continued to flag our interest in this part, over the last several months. We've been assured that the process will be taken forward, and indeed we already have one which has already come through, which is directly for India, which will export it to GAIL, which will export gas to GAIL. But we're also interested in the US capacity in terms of technology, capital, and regulatory experience in managing shale gas, because we need to look at whether we have the resources, and if we do have the resources, how best can we utilize them in a manner that secures the interests of the citizen and also deploys the highest possible technology to it. So this is definitely on the agenda for the Secretary of State's visit. DTI, well, not just the DTI, but the India-US defense relationship is very much on the agenda, and that will include conversations on the DTI.
Ranjit?
Is there any specific proposal for space collaboration also, because NASA administrator is coming?
Yes, there are. We are hoping to finalize a few more things on the space side, but Secretary of Space will also be there on our side, so we're really looking forward to further develop our partnership in space.
Manish?
On the trade and economic side, can you amplify on some of the key issues which will figure prominently in the discussion? Especially there are a host of trade-related irritants on the American side. They seem to be very unhappy with some of the issues relating to patent and copyrights and all that. Could you just give an insight?
Well, we're quite happy to discuss any issues that they want to table on the trade and economic side, but we want to begin with the fact that we now have, they now have a new U.S. trade representative who's recently been confirmed 2 days ago in his new post. So USTR Mike Froman takes charge shortly. We would like to resume the trade policy forum, which is co-led by the USTR and our Commerce Minister. We hope to have a meeting very soon of the India-US CEO Forum. There are ample fora to discuss whatever issues that might have arisen in the bilateral trade and economic relationship, which I must emphasize are on both sides. So, there are market access issues that we have, that they have, and those that they have. We can clearly discuss what we think are areas of divergence and areas of convergence and find solutions to these. Part of the problem has been that because many of these mechanisms haven't met in a long time, in over 2 years, there's really been no forum to bring these issues up. So these then tend to spill out into the public domain rather than find resolution. But issues on the American side as well as issues on our side will also be raised.
Akhilesh Sumar.
Vikram, you told about new architecture in Asia. What is this about all?
Well, there is an evolving architecture in Asia. We are not creating it ourselves, but it's an ASEAN-driven process, which includes the new mechanisms with which ASEAN deals with the countries of East Asia, with India, with extra-regional great powers like the United States and Russia. That includes the East Asia Summit process, the Asian Defense Ministers meeting ADMM Plus process, and the ASEAN Regional Forum. So all these areas are now areas in which India and the United States are actually, sort of associated partners in a sense. So our conversation with them will also include conversations about how this architecture is beginning to evolve. Of course, China is also part of these processes.
Yeah. What about the visa issue and the American nuclear suppliers seem to have a problem with our liability law, and they had expressed some reservations. Our stand is that this is the law, this is how we have to. So how does that affect our, proposal to import certain nuclear materials and equipment from the United States? And is the Prime Minister's visit to America...
One question.
That's three.
One question.
Okay. On visas first, we, per se, we're not raising this as a visa issue. We recognize the point that it's every country's sovereign right to decide whom they allow and how many people they allow and in what format they allow. The question that we are concerned about is the specificity of the law, of the US laws that apply to the temporary movement of highly skilled personnel under what are called H-1B visas, which is highly skilled non-immigrant visas, and the movement of people as on business intercompany transfers, which are L category visas in the US system. Our concern is that these are actually trade and economic relations matters rather than visa matters. It's not a consular matter in that sense. But the conversation is ongoing with the US. We need to see how the new the segment dealing with highly skilled non-immigrant visas is dealt with in the comprehensive immigration reform that the United States is taking up. So, we want to be very clear that we are taking up issues that have relevance for our business relationship and the provision of services by our companies to the United States. These are matters of concern for us. Insofar as the US has policies that it's looking at in the overall immigration package, whether it's green cards, whether it's legalization of illegal immigrants, those are matters of domestic importance to the United States. We wish them well on that process, but we have no comment to make on their internal policies on that. It's only in terms of the H-1B and the L visas that we are engaging with them, and we are putting our concerns forward on behalf of Indian industry. And we are also trying to ensure that Indian industry and government can work together more closely to ensure that our concerns are duly understood by those involved in the immigration reform in the Senate and in the House of Representatives. In terms of liability, we have said that you're correct. We have said that this is our law, but we have also said we are more than willing to engage in explaining our law to anybody who has specific queries. And we will do our best to address these queries within the four corners of the Indian law. We have nothing to hide about our law.
Sir, my little question was connected with visa. That now so many universities are coming to India, American universities. A lot of students are also going to US for study. So they are facing so much problem for student visa even. So many visas were rejected. So will it discuss there when we are allowing them to come to India? So they should also reciprocate to allow some Indian student also. And one more question.
One question, please.
One question. Is connected with the immigration.
One question.
Immigration, sir.
One question, that's it.
On visas, as I said, the issue is we have to be very careful about what we ask them to do in terms of what facilitates business and legitimate the legitimate rights of enhancing the bilateral economic relationship and the facilitation of the movement of people. So, insofar as student visa cases are concerned, the US keeps assuring us that they're doing the best they can to ensure that students with valid admission papers and the correct I-20s are able to go to the United States to study. We have no reason to disbelieve them because insofar as the economic opportunity is concerned, it's obviously a good economic opportunity for the receiving universities. I don't see why they would not want Indian students to come, because increasingly a large number of Indian students, we're not where we were 20 years ago. Not everybody is going on only on 100% scholarships. A fair number of Indians are going, including on paid terms. So obviously there is interest, and the fact that they're wanting to come and drum up studying opportunities in India suggests that this is the issue. The issue is that the processes are complicated at times. So maybe people are not able to fill these things up properly. We certainly encourage the American embassy here and the consulates here to find the greatest possible ways of addressing these challenges. But I must also say in their defense that they've been extremely forthcoming in trying to respond to these problems, including by citing pretty staggering figures of the number of visas that they're issuing every year. It's certainly much more than we're issuing right now.
Yes. On liability law again. So you do not expect any breakthrough on finally getting the U.S. side to, be on terms with Indian side this time?
I don't know about breakthrough. We have a law, and we're happy to discuss the law. If they have issues about the law, we're more than happy to clarify them. We're not expecting to either them to expect us to change the law or to change their position. But if we can find clarity and a common ground on the implementation of the law in terms of nuclear business, by all means.
Hello. What's India's position on the SOFA? Yeah, here. Status of Forces Agreement between Maldives and the United States.
You'll need to ask the Maldives that or the US that, not me.
Yeah. Ashok.
Will there be a discussion on India-US knowledge initiative on agriculture and the cooperation in GM crops and biotechnology?
Agriculture is one of the themes on our agenda, but largely in the sense of science and technology cooperation. We have a pretty robust program of cooperation in science and technology as applicable to agriculture. So that includes, the application of science and technology to crop details, to our Indian Council for Agricultural Research, and to more scientific prediction of cropping. We're also looking at cooperation in terms of meteorology as applied to agriculture. This is dealt with on the agriculture and S&T side. GM, I don't recall that this is part of our discourse currently. I don't think it is. Not in this dialogue, at least.
You know, there have been reports that India sought temporary custody of David Headley. Has India indeed sought his temporary custody, and what has been the US response to this?
We've sought, let's be clear about this, we've sought the extradition of both these individuals to start with. We'll wait for the American response before we look at other options.
When was this done?
This was done some months ago, quite some time ago now.
Your last question on this.
Tailpiece question.
Sorry?
As a tailpiece question.
Okay.
Okay, now, before I ask you a question...
okay. I heard it as 10-piece.
No. I want to draw your attention to the Times of India report some time ago, a few days ago, about an interview with Julian Assange.
That he will not answer. That's a question that I will answer separately.
All right. So
yeah, but this is on the US visit. On Assange, if you want to ask, I will respond.
So do I ask or do you not ask?
No. Okay. We will give you another chance.
Right. Thank you.
I think with that, Vikram has answered all your questions, unless any of you have anything else on the US. Since you do not have, thank you very much. I'll just give me a minute. I'll just
throw him off.
see Vikram off. I'll come back and you can ask on anything else.
Sorry, keep waiting. Apologies again. I do apologize.
You didn't respond to his request for asylum. The other one was he accused the government of India of almost being ungrateful in the context of a purported request from Robert Snowden for asylum.
Yeah.
Now the same report quoted an official spokesperson, or rather an External Affairs Ministry official, saying that there were no records of such a request. Now, would you clarify the position?
Yes. Thank you very much, and I'm grateful to you for having asked that question. Let me reiterate what I had said then, and I'll reiterate again. We in India are not aware of any request for asylum, either from Mr. Julian Assange or from Mr. Snowden. I hope that sets at rest every bit of speculation on this. We have not received any request for asylum. I think the newspaper that you quoted was talking of a letter that was written, and they are talking of a letter. Now, there is a difference between a letter and a request for asylum. I do not know the contents of that letter, but I can be certain there has not been any request for asylum on this matter. I hope let's set that to rest once and for all. Yeah. Wait, no. Anybody else on anything else? No, not this. You are new here. You're new here. I respond to one question from one person. You had your chance. If there is nobody else who's asking on anything else, then we come back to you. So if that's... Yes, sir.
Is there any response from Saudi Arabia on the Hajj delegation? And also connected with that, if you are reducing the 20%, will it be on the private tour operators or from the Hajj panel?
Yes, the Saudi government has indicated that they have, as a norm, decided, given the view that there is an expansion being undertaken in the holy cities, they do not have the capacity to absorb so many pilgrims for the Hajj. Therefore, they've decided, as per our understanding, that 50% domestic pilgrims will be reduced and 20% from all over the globe. This is a norm that they have set for everyone, and they've requested us to abide by that norm. Now, we have received this response. As you are aware, for the Hajj, there is a Hajj conference which deliberates all aspects of India's Hajj policy. This consists of representatives of all state Hajj committees as well as the Central Hajj Committee and the Government of India. This conference is to be held in the last week of this month. And that, based on consultations and discussions and views expressed at that conference, the Government of India will then take a view on how to go about in view of the new circumstances that have arisen there after the signing of the Hajj agreement. Yes. Yes. Pardon? I am not aware. I think there are officials who are specific to this and who handle this. I am not aware of anything. Hey, Elizabeth? Just a minute.
Sir, the Taliban has reportedly opened their office in Doha. And there are reports. Now, I know Mr. Doraisamy was here and he did say that Afghanistan is on the table for talks. But my specific question relates to the US opening talks with the Taliban and groups like the Haqqani group. Now, that's a sensitive issue for us because we blame the Haqqanis for the bomb attack on the Indian embassy in Kabul. So how are we looking at this?
Yeah, we have followed developments relating to the opening of an office of the Taliban in Qatar and statements made by representatives of that office and statements made by others. Now, these statements reflect some confusion about the name of the Qatar office, its structure, its political and legal status, and its objectives. We have also seen the reaction of the government of Afghanistan to these developments. Our position on this is clear. Government of India has always called for a broad-based, Afghan-led, Afghan-owned, and Afghan-controlled reconciliation process within the framework of the Afghan constitution and the internationally accepted red lines. Such a process would necessarily recognize the centrality of the Afghan government in the process and involve all sections of Afghan society, as also the insurgent groups, including the Taliban, who wish to join the mainstream. The reconciliation process should not seek to create equivalence between an internationally recognized government of Afghanistan and insurgent groups. It should not confer legitimacy to insurgent groups or convey the impression of two competing state authorities for Afghanistan, which could undermine the legitimate Afghan state, Afghan government, and the political, social, and economic progress witnessed in Afghanistan over the past decade. To this progress, the international community itself has contributed in great measure. India, therefore, remains committed to supporting the government and the people of Afghanistan in accordance with the India-Afghanistan Strategic Partnership Agreement and a reconciliation process that has the support of the government and the people of Afghanistan. These are the broad parameters under which we will engage on this matter. Thank you very much. No, you answered. Thank you very much.